Our Q2 in progress. So again, a great value of these meetings. We record everything, put it up on our website. So again, if anyone you know who can't make it to this meeting wants to stay engaged in these issues, you can always go to our website. We'll have more information on that. But again, welcome. This is the Q2 meeting of the MLK District Olmsted Community Alliance. We've been at this now for coming up on close to a year, and always have a slow start with these first couple of slides. Doesn't come to life. So just in terms of what we're going to do here tonight, I always like to reinforce what it is we're trying to accomplish here with the Olmsted Community Alliance. But then really the focus of the meeting is always on these quarterly updates on projects within the parks. We bring in some opportunities to learn more about the Conservancy and our work, and then have a very robust amount of time for park issues, park concerns, because this really is intended to be a dialogue, not just sort of a one-way monologue. I'd like to first thank the King Urban Life Center, the executive director, Sigourney Cook, and I know Cynthia has been assisting in just coordinating the space, but I mean, what a beautiful space to have for this community meeting. So thanks to them, and thanks to you all for coming out. So again, just in terms of what the Conservancy and the City Common Council and our partners are trying to accomplish with the Alliance, it's really about communication. It's really just about collaborating and connecting, making sure that we've got good representation from the community as we progress projects, involving the community in the implementation of our 5-year plan, which is basically an effort we go through with the community to establish our fundraising priorities for projects to improve the parks. But again, we want to keep that continuous coordination, keep the outreach and awareness building, and at the end of the day, we would love it, if we can enhance the stewardship and get more volunteers and get more folks out in the parks, helping us do good work caring for our parks. Again, we do this across the entire system. So while we're here today talking about the issues of MLK Park, week after week, we're moving around the city, talking to various communities about the Olmsted parks in different parts of the city. But really, just regards to your role, we really, look to you all as being sort of the voices of the community as best you can, raise awareness, recruit more people to come out, and again, get involved in the work. Just until we're all on first name basis, going to keep introducing all of the team. I'm the Director of Planning and Advocacy. I get a lot of support from the folks at the side table here. Zach Garland, our Community Outreach Manager, and Z, our Marketing and Communication Specialist. But we've got a great team at the Conservancy, led by our Executive Director, Stephanie Crockett, who is here tonight, our Director of Park Administration, Greg Robinson, and then as well, from time to time, you'll be meeting Katie Stevenson and Bob Stotz, our Director of Operations, who runs all the maintenance crews. Hopefully, if you're out in MLK Park, you've gotten to know Troy, the district supervisor, and his second in command, Jonathan Clark, the park foreman. But as well, there's really some system-wide activities with forestry, managing the trees, all of the buildings, Charlie, and then our circles and plantings, but sort of working out of the greenhouse in MLK, Eileen Martin. So with that introduction, now let's get to the fun stuff, the projects and the progress. Again, we're trying to come out quarterly with these conversations so that we're really sort of reinforcing and continuing to talk about projects as they take steps forward. The first, again, just sort of working through the diagrams here, the lighting project. So back a couple of years ago, we got funding through Empire State Development, and a portion of that funding went to the priority project of improving the lighting. If you could sort of read in between the lines, no pun intended on this drawing, you can see that this is a map of the distribution of light through the park, and specifically on the east side of the park, big gaps, big dark gaps along the pathways, leading to issues of safety and security, and that leading to bad behavior. So with that planning effort and sort of a replanning of the lighting along the pathways, making it safe for people to, so again, navigate through these portions of the park along the paths as the sun goes down. We've come up with a plan. We've had a few community meetings, and we are through the process. Hired a contractor. We are unfortunately still in final negotiations with the city and National Grid. The weird thing about lighting is there's people who own the cords and the poles, and people who own the lights, and there's a negotiation about taking lights down and putting lights up, and there's been continued issues with sort of getting things finalized. But we do plan at this point in time to be rolling by the very beginning of summer. We have the contractor working on a staging plan. The light poles are ordered. Things are moving forward. But at this point in time, and some of the conversations we've had specifically related to the many events that are happening in MLK Park, the idea of sort of beating to the line on Juneteenth coming up in a month, and tearing up a bunch of the park prior to that event. I think we're probably going to sort of set a goal now for basically right after that event to begin the construction process. But 2022 is going to be a big year for light improvements throughout the park for safety. And then as well, additionally, at the MLK Monument, matching the funds from Empire State Development, Erie County stepped up with nearly $200,000 of funding for artistic lighting out on the plaza. So as a part of this larger project focused on safety, we'll be wrapped in to that work plan, getting some nice artistic lighting out at the monument. Additionally, we've been continuing to have meetings. This is sort of MLK Monument Committee. The last one we had was this past Saturday, and we really focused in on the idea of interpretation and sort of celebration out on the plaza. So there'll be the lighting project as a part of that. There'll be boxes installed for like a special event with places to plug in to amplify voices. But there's also opportunity to sort of have voices on demand or on the audio tour speeches. So we've been working with this group on establishing a sort of vision for what is the theme of this tour, what would be the highlights of not only there's certainly history associated with the parks, but the history of the monument, the history of the civil rights movement, the history of the community are really the stories that we want to tell as a part of this process. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, certainly as I go through this, I think on the next slide, have an opportunity to connect in, and it's a joint effort between the Conservancy and the Buffalo African American Museum. Clifford Bell here tonight leading the charge on that. So really that is about interpretation, storytelling, and just a note while it's on the slide, there's also the idea of just signage to direct people to the various activities. So the idea of identification signage, you can see the little square in the corner, and directional signage directing people to the very cool exhibit in the shelter building, all a part of the work we're doing. Additionally, funding is in place for regrouting all of the cracks or the gaps in the concrete on the plaza. You can see here, you notice the little bits of green. We don't want that green. So we've identified the funds for this summer to have all of that repaired and new grout put in. And again, you'll hear more about the opportunities to spruce up the plaza and do some planting when I bring up Zach a little bit further in the presentation. But again, this joint effort really focused on the great legacy of the park, the great legacy here at the monument, and the opportunity to really make MLK Park a tourist destination within Buffalo and the region. So very exciting stuff there. More exciting news that we've made some progress on is the idea that in August we're going to be able to rededicate what we call the Cottage Garden. This is a very identifiable symbol, the stone-walled garden over near the Science Museum, in honor of its designer and the designer of many wonderful things throughout the city, the first African-American architect of the city, John Brent. So we're working with the family. We've worked through the preservation board process. Now there's some coordination with the Arts Commission. But I think we're feeling like we're in line to have a good celebration and a rededication of this space to its designer, John Brent. So exciting things coming over the course of the summer. Another sort of major update, basically the update that we've got from the city with regard to the casino is that they are through some supply chain issues, a little bit delayed on getting some of the final pieces of equipment into the kitchen area, and they anticipate end of summer, beginning of fall, this building will be complete. And as part of that, a very key component of that, we're really going to drill down on next meeting is going to be the idea of this concessionaire RFP, who is going to be running the facility that has been getting worked on for the last several months, right in the heart of the beautiful park, really opening this up to the public. And we again, in the city, as our partner, want to engage the community in the process of making sure we're getting, the concessionaire we want in there. We're getting, the programming we want in that building, in line with the community's desires for the park. So next meeting, 3 months from now, that's when we're going to be really drilling down into that story, and looking forward to the months ahead with this building opening up. The one thing, not that we need to sort of dwell on it, but one of the things that we're working on and will be working through in the process of getting to a concessionaire in there is dealing with their garbage. We do still need to figure out where a dumpster that is required for this concessionaire is going to be located within the park. There are more restrictions than there are great ideas about where this sort of thing can go. It can't go anywhere near the playground, can't go anywhere near the splash pad. So basically near the building is off the table. Ideally out near the road at some place, but really where is a great place to put a dumpster? These are going to be things that we're going to have to wrestle with, in this coming process. So again, we'll be engaging in that effort as we get to finalizing things. Now going to sort of open things up and sort of looking for some dialogue on this topic. Get rid of you. Where's my cursor? Is that your screen? No. Okay, I've got a big box in the middle of mine. Oops. Go away. I can't get it. Oh, there it is. Okay, never mind. Thank you, Z. All right, sorry about that. I'm crazy up here. Perimeter security has been a major issue that I know you've been battling. It's, specifically people living around the park who care about the park, at their wits' end for sure. Funding has been secured by the city to fully fund perimeter security. So you guys might be familiar with the small project that happened last year. Call it phase 1. Call it what we like with some of the boulders going out on a section. But at the last meeting, we talked about some of the issue areas. People identified basically all of East Parade and North Parade. But really what we're finding is anywhere people can get in, get up, jump the curb, get onto the pathways, get into the grass, people seem to be doing it. So we've been supportive of the city in this effort and have graphics to talk through. Okay, so to be a little tough on it, I guess. So here I've got some zoom ins, but basically this was the graphic that was provided by the city. But the idea to communicate is the entire perimeter of either side of Fillmore Avenue, either side of the Park Road from Humboldt to Fillmore, entirely lined edge to edge with, in blue, the recommendation is the wood posts that already exist and have been fixed along the Best Street side, continuing those up, filling the gaps all along Fillmore and up along, and then all around what we call Cowalls Island, but that sort of northern area along the sort of bended section of North Parade, recommended with wood bollards. On the other side of the park, continuing the effort of phase one, is the idea of sort of completely lining North Parade, East Parade, Best Street, and the edges of Fillmore, and even the edge of the parking lots with boulders. You can see down at the bottom, basically continuing that line of boulders. So I guess sort of take this in. I've got a couple slides and just some sort of preliminary looking the Conservancy's been doing with a couple comments, but then really want to open it up and get input and get some feedback because the city wants to get this out to bid end of the month, and they want to get this project underway by the end of summer. That is their goals. They're planning to stick to that. And what we need is basically to sort of come to some consensus as we can. Here, give them some good feedback so we can move this project along. Sarah, I'll let you pipe in before I show a few more slides.
So, do you know what the approximate per boulder and versus the per wood fence post costs are?
Approximate cost. That's a good question. For some reason, $400 sticks in my head.
300 installed is the boulder. I'm not sure the wooden bollard cost.
Okay.
It was based on what they did last summer, so some costs didn't go up from that phase one. It was $300.
And is it the case that the wooden bollards fell into disrepair because snowplows, weather, possibly vehicles hitting them? Meaning, how durable are they really?
Yeah, I mean the nice thing about boulders is you really can't break them. I mean, unless you smash them and crack them into pieces. But yeah, there is some concern. I mean, the lifespan of bollards, you know, you're typically probably looking at a 20-year lifespan until you might be losing a few of them. Certainly, if a car you know, jumps the curb and knocks into them, they can go crooked. They can get snapped off. You can see that there is certainly some maintenance associated with installing a wood bollard that you know would be slightly different with dealing with a boulder. So it's certainly something to consider. Yes.
So this is not going to take place until the end of summer.
End of summer is their commitment to sort of get you know the contract.
So then every day we have to worry about one of the children getting injured. You know, I live right across the street. I have probably about 20 pictures in my phone of probably about 10, 15 cars that's been stuck. I've born and raised on North Parade, and this is the most I've ever in my life seen this many cars stuck in the park.
Yeah.
And when I say literally stuck, like having to be pulled out by tow trucks, even tow trucks stuck trying to pull the vehicles out, and they're just destroying. When I say destroying, even today there was cars on the grass. Yesterday I watched kids playing football and darting the cars because the cars are riding through the park while the kids are playing football. My biggest fear is a fatality. That's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of nothing's gonna take place until a kid is actually injured, and I don't want to see that. But I'm telling you, they're jumping. Today I stopped the guy, was like, hey, if you do it, I'm calling the cops on you. I'm just so fed up because it's happening every single day. And he's like, well, I need to drop something off. I'm like, if you pull in the grass, I'm calling the cops. And it's just to the point where I'm calling the 911 every day. You know, I'm not even calling the non-emergency, I'm calling 911 because it's ridiculous to see the kids run from the cars and they're in the park. They should be free to run in the park. You know, and I mean, I don't know, hopefully, you know, summer, by the end of summer, we'll stay safe. You know, I pray every day that no one gets hurt, but I mean, we've been fighting for this Gina and I have been fighting for this for a long time. And it's, I don't know what it's gonna take, but you know, you get one kid, I hate to use Delaware Park, we're still going 30 miles over, you know, and that was he had a medical condition, right? That's how he ran up in there. But these are actual people that put their blinker on and pull up in the park like it's a road, you know, and it's not a road. It's really scary to me, you know. But
yeah. I mean, I know frustrating how long things take, but I mean, I think you two can certainly pat yourself on the back for getting. I mean, I mean, Gina, you've been on these emails. It's roughly $1 million that's gotten committed to this effort, and I think it's because, you know, you guys have been taken so seriously that the city is not really taking this seriously. So that's work, Stephanie.
So I wanted to give you an update because I had a big conversation with Councilmember Wingo, and he has agreed to fund private security at MLK every day until these boulders and bollards go in. We're hoping that it'll start on May 20th. We're trying to get all the paperwork together right now with the city, but he did approve funding that. So we will at least see some type of a security presence in the park, hopefully starting May 20th until the arrive.
I mean, we think if you start giving a few tickets, and maybe people say, well, I got a ticket, you know, I'm not gonna pull up there, I got a ticket, you know, but the cops just wave them along, just say, get off, you know, and I think if enough people start saying, I got a $50 ticket, they won't get up there, you know?
That's Gina.
Since I've been sharing information about the meeting, quite a few people came up with a suggestion of the cast iron fence that used to be around MLK Park a long time ago. And I was surprised that a lot of people suggested that fence. And I know we talked about it years ago, but that's what they're all saying because of what Tanya just said. It's really bad. So I think we need to put that on the table because look at Central Park. It's beautiful with that cast iron fence and we need it. So I think that needs to be on the table for discussion.
Yeah. I mean, that's
And Frederick Law Olmsted will be really happy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's with those sort of things, it's easily to just get a linear footage and, you know, get a quick idea of what that would cost, whether it's priority areas, whether there's anything that anyone would be concerned about. I think that is yeah, let's put that on the table. And again, the conversation we have here today, I'm going to be sending to Steve Buscelli tomorrow and getting the ball rolling on this because again, the more we debate it, the longer it's going to take to get started. But again, we want to make sure we're doing this right. We're addressing everybody's needs. Some of the thoughts that, you know, the Conservancy had, just looking at the various details. Come on. Okay. So up in this corner, again, to Sarah's point, a little bit of concern about using too many of the bollards for the reason that, you know, they can be damaged. They can be, you know, you break one, then it's open until the point when you come back and get the maintenance done. There might be a logic to just focusing, again, sort of thinking about just, we're talking about the blue, the formal area, that kind of formal section of western side of MLK Park along Fillmore, focusing the idea of bollards in that more formal area and letting the more naturalized areas, less formal areas, all be the boulders. So recommending maybe where we can, shifting, doing more boulders versus more bollards, and also just noting the various areas that weren't on the plan that would be required under any circumstances to have removable bollards placed in the pathways. Tony's thoughts on that?
Yeah, so Brian, do you know where the cast iron fence was? you know, as far as, was it just around the outside boundary? Was it along Fillmore, you know?
It was on
I-
the inside when I was younger, like on the inside of, you know, where the boulders are, like that area. It wasn't on the outside, it was on the inside. But I-
Okay, yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to do a little bit of research. I mean, there is evidence that, you know, like, typically there's some, just even the way things are growing along Best Street, it's clearly a fence along Best Street back in the day. But again, I think we need to do some investigation, though. So it'd be historically accurate.
So just my opinion, you know, the real Olmsted approach would be to do what Olmsted did. And, you know, the boulders, I understand, are maybe cheaper, but I don't think Olmsted would have, you know, done that.
Yeah, I guess I'd just like to point out though, when that fence was in, that was when the Park was the Parade, which was a very different use. I mean, once they shifted to the more current historic layout of use, I didn't think that fence was historic.
Well, if it was around when
The whole perimeter.
You ain't that old.
I'm not that old. I mean, I'm 54 years old.
I mean, I think there's some research to be done here to find out exactly where the, you know, historically accurate application of that would be, but I think it's a good idea to put on the table, for sure. Is there a hand up?
I
Yeah.
just wanted to second the fence idea that you brought up because of its, you know, original historic correctness. And obviously where it should be is a good question. But also, because I really have a concern about wooden bollards getting knocked all over the place,
Mhm.
looking messy,
Yeah,
not getting repaired promptly by the city, and just not being up to the job.
yeah. And with the fence, we wouldn't have to go through all
Exactly, because it's cast iron, break your car.
that. Right.
So, I mean, I guess the takeaway is sort of, there's concern about use of bollards at all,
Yeah.
Well, wood things, yes.
the wood bollards.
Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of run them over.
And my understanding is metal bollards are way more expensive.
Yeah.
they certainly are, yeah. That is a true statement. But, you know, where we need to put something durable is in the center of the pathway. So you've seen a few, I think actually on the next page, sort of moves, and I'm moving over to the other side where the boulders are suggested. Again, just sort of noting, their recommendation is to put them on the outside of the sidewalk, at least how they're diagrammed out. But however, so this is the corner there of North Parade and East Parade, where they've installed that removable bollard and sort of created a little bit of, you know, again, a little symbol of stay out of the park at the corner. All that infrastructure is going on the inside of the sidewalk, and honestly, in sort of my opinion, I feel like that's maybe more appropriate, because then you're not going to be dealing with having to negotiate bollards in multiple sidewalks. You know, here, if we're leaving that, then you've got to put 2 more bollards in the middle of either one of those sidewalks. You put the ring of boulders on the inside of the sidewalk, then that one bollard does the job. So again, initial thought was sort of seeing these graphics just as recently, that was maybe move that row of boulders to the inside of the sidewalk just to sort of simplify where you're crossing paths and where you're putting obstructions in the middle of pathways. Does that make sense to people, or any thoughts on
Well,
the east
then-
side?
Cars can park in the grass median between the street and the sidewalk, so.
And it doesn't
I don't know
protect
about that.
people.
And with that picture right there you're showing, cars go straight down that
Mhm.
sidewalk and they go straight up that way. And the car just hit over this way and a piece of the car was left in the park. This is doing nothing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if the boulders were continued on the side, on the inside of the sidewalk, cars would still have access to those outside sidewalks. So if the recommendation is take it all the way out to the street, then
Close to the
where do
street
you
and
move a
stop.
few more other things?
I would think you would want to close to the street, because if we're not protecting the sidewalk, we're still not protecting
Exactly,
Yep.
pedestrians who are on the sidewalk.
right.
And the other thing is, when there are events in the park, very often people have tables and tents that go right along these sidewalks. So, you know, sometimes when the traffic is busiest, and it would be most like likely and unfortunate that a car would jump a curb is when you would have people occupying that space.
Okay. All right, great. This is why we talk about these things. So again, so the recommendation here is to move it out. Well, again, so there's a look into the fence. Let's find out where we got some historic fence information. But also if we're talking boulders, we're basically making the sidewalks around the park also safe in this case. That as we get down, we probably would not be able to do that along Best Street. Just because there's such a narrow sort of lawn area between the road and the road and the sidewalk. But where we can, North Parade and East Parade, there's a nice wide area. So, okay, recommendation out to the curb. All right, now the last one, and some thoughts specifically around the MLK Monument. There's some clarity needed. There's places where they didn't have removable bollards marked that need to go in there at the corner of Best. But it came up at our design review committee about whether we want to try and do something different or do something in some way sympathetic to the monument as you sort of get up close to it or in the area between the walkway and the monument. That might be just a different kind of stone, more similar to the stone of the monument, some other treatment. Maybe that's the place we do some fancier bollards or something like that. People have thoughts specifically in the monument area. And any thoughts about what we might want to suggest?
Metal ball.
Couple of quick notes. I've been sitting on this park thing since the late 70s. And since we came in there, this monument dedicated on October the 1st, 1983. The mistake I made there was not to keep it going as a place to meet and celebrate the historic significance of King and all the things he did. Now, a year ago, Gina and I had a long conversation, which is what's going to be as important as everything you propose to do here now. That's educating the community, the ownership of the park.
That's right.
Didn't we talk about that at some length?
Yep.
Now, I'm working with Sister Eaglesworth at the Science Museum. I've already had a long conversation and a couple meetings with Sister Jones, Jennifer, who's the head of Juneteenth. I already got word to Jackie Hines, who's the head of Agriculture Center. And I've already spoken to all these folks about the celebration of the park, its historical value. It's going to be a tourist destination when you get through developing it. The lighting, the signage, and all those things that are being proposed are going to make that a must-see place. When anybody comes to Buffalo, they're going to want to see Niagara Falls, but they're going to want to see Martin Luther King Park. It's the second largest tribute to him in the United States of America. There's been controversy about what it looks like or don't. Well, I know what it looked like because I was in on the planning. It was never intended to look like King, but there's a complete exhibit of the monument and its preparation in the shelter house right now. A lot of people haven't even been in and looked at it. They're still talking about that ain't King and all. If they read what the sculptor's thoughts were and how he came to it and why the people that voted on it agreed to have it done because of what it represented, they would have a better understanding. You know, all art is in the eyes of the beholder. Believe what I tell you. Some people call art that you wouldn't even look at it and put in your kitchen. The others say, that's magnificent, that's worth $2 million. Ownership. Until this community realizes the importance of that monument, that itself is prominent because it's an Olmsted Frederick Law, one of his inventions. It's named in Martin Luther King, one of the most fabulous and outstanding human beings ever lived, not just civil rights, but human rights. And it's a beautiful park in the heart of the African-American community. There's nothing like that in America. Believe me, I've been in a lot of places looking at a lot of different statues and stuff. So all I'm saying is a part of the preparation must include outreach. There's not enough people here to send that message. That's why I'm asking Sister Jones, who agreed to have a cleanup crew, to publicize the 200th anniversary of Frederick Law Olmsted and have everybody that's there just take a minute and walk on in the shelter house, take a look at the exhibit. We'll be people there to answer questions. Until we realize how important that is to us, because it represents something who represented us. These things that happen would not happen if we had ownership. Because the word would be out there, leave that park alone, tell that about, hey man, I want you to be riding up in that park.
Mhm.
Because balance not gonna stop them. Mentality may. Let's think about it. That's the way we're working from our end.
Mhm.
Yes.
Hi there, everybody. I apologize for being late. I did everything I could to get here before you left. My name is Sherry Sherrill, and I'm the founder of Covington Associates Consulting, which is a social enterprise business concern. But I want to piggyback on what Brother Bell has said. I want to say hello to my friend Seamus Gallivan of Buffalo Slow Road, a wonderful community champion. Both of them are. I recognize that and honor that. What we are doing at my company, we've begun to try to interest the residents, sort of like a community organizing effort, but to get a neighborhood improvement effort aimed at the Martin Luther King Park neighborhood itself. And of course, that would include honoring the park, the legacy of the park, what it stands for, whose name it bears, and doing everything we can to help to bring attention and focus to this wonderful, I think, incredible community that has so much history in it. So speaking from another perspective, I think that when you're talking about a public works project and a publicly owned park, everybody owns Martin Luther King Jr. Park, and that's absolutely true. But for the Black and African American community, I think it's understandable with our ancestors' name bearing the tradition of the park and building upon Mr. Olmsted and Mr. Vox's contribution to humanity. It is a fabulous park. It means a heck of a lot to us. And so there is within our community, admittedly, a movement and an opinion, I'll say it that way, for there to be an actual likeness, full body image of Dr. King. Now, with that being said, it's not to criticize anything that has been done thus far, but I think we'd be doing disservice to what the word community means and what it entails when it is implemented correctly. And that means honoring the voices of as many different persons as possible, even when those opinions diverge from what we would like or any one of us might like, or from each other. So with that being said, even though that monument in Washington, D.C., Dr. King's monument, has borne criticism, just like what's going on the head over there on MLK Park right now, criticism is not going to stop. If we put a full scale version of the Dr. King, 6 foot tall, however tall he was, and he was one of my heroes, I should know how tall he was, so forgive me. But we may still get criticism. Someone may still say, that doesn't look enough like him. Yeah, it looks more than the head does, but it's just not so I just want to say that I'm looking forward to doing everything I can and using my company everywhere I can, including publicizing what the Martin Luther King Park Neighborhood Improvement Project Committee does from this point until we accomplish what we have heard is the vision that one needs to be implemented for East Ferry Street, especially, but for Martin Luther King Park neighborhood in and of itself. So I just want to thank you for this meeting. Thank you so much.
Great. Yeah.
Just one comment. It's not in response to you, but I think just a couple of things that really need to be said. When that monument was put together, it took almost 2 years to raise the funds and get the cooperation of public-private development. If you will go and look at all the names of all the people that participated in the selection process and everything to do it, these are all prominent people. It was a combination of different people, not only racially diverse, but if you look at B.W. Smith and Judge Green and a few people, all these people were there. Now, that was the moment of the day when that expression was delivered, the outcome was what you see. I think it's helpful people would do some research so they'll know. We've agreed with people that have, Jim is one of them, that would like to see an exact replica of King in some form. We encourage that, but don't knock our effort on the way to try to get what you think you will enjoy. I'm gonna tell you, there's a bunch of people that won't like that view. So it's not about pleasing the people, it's doing something that represents Black history, Black progress, Black. And if you look at how he selected what he did, do that, please. You'll have a full understanding of that day and those group of people that got together, how they came up with that decision. Now, if that same group met today, it would probably be a different decision. But depending on time. We're welcome because it's all about trying to put people together. That's how Brother Bell's worked for all his life. You never heard me be negative or see me whooping out. That's not my style. but it's important that I get an understanding where people's heads are coming from too. Some of the stuff we're talking about doesn't even make sense to conversation. I don't knock it, I just sit here and listen. The only reason I'm speaking now is because my goal is to get all the people on the same track. We love the park, we admire its development. It's beautiful, it's got the most famous park designer ever lived, him and his buddy, and it's a tribute to Dr. King, my Lord. Let's celebrate it. We've asked to have electrical connections put in, so when you have performances in and around the past, you'll have, we're working so hard. We've been doing this not just now, Brother Bell, be 93 this year. I started out when I was 25 in the community, all right?
Brother, Mr. Bell, and every time you open your mouth, sir, I'm educated, and I want to thank you for that. All your years of service, the decades that you put forth to uplifting our community and empowering us, they were not lost on me.
Oh, no, I appreciate
I want
that.
to say to you, I did do the research, because I
Okay.
believe in knowing from whence I speak before I open my mouth,
Yeah.
especially when I know it might be an unpopular opinion. I love the work that's been done in the park thus far. In fact, I said to the founder of, one of the founders of Jessica, if not the founder, I said, you know what we should do to encourage block clubs to even take even greater ownership of it? We should have a block, a prayer vigil, a prayer for peace.
Absolutely.
Because we need peace to come to our community. We need more peace, so much peace. And we should have all the block clubs bring a table and bring that waiting pool area that could be pond, whatever.
Give me your card.
And with the
We'll be
white.
talking to you. I didn't mean to distract. I hope this has encouraged them, but I think it's important people understand, because Gina's been working night and day. She's got a couple of very serious ideas that she's trying to see fruition again. But anytime we've ever talked, we get along fine. I know her mission is a little different than what mine was, but she'll tell you, I've been encouraging her ever since we first started talking. I've been to some of her meetings, love her. And I don't care if people don't have to agree with Brother Bell. I'd rather you wouldn't. Because if you don't agree with it, you make me stimulate some mental activity that makes me wonder why. Then I have to do something different. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you, sir.
Seamus, try to follow that.
And this is somebody I'm looking forward to being with too. I'm gonna use him up.
I'm here for it, literally. Thank you Gina, for the invitation to this, and please forgive me for being late. And so if any of this has been covered, but sticking on the same subject, I need to understand some things a little better before I find them. James Kellerman, Slow Buffalo, pardon me. I don't know everybody here. While we're on the subject of the statute, how long has that information been in? Is it in the greenhouse?
Shelter.
In the shelter house?
Let me go in there.
How long has it been
When we
there?
did this, when we did the second dedication, Brother Bell.
Yeah, but it was in
That
there,
was
it was in there just before that. We did the second dedication in 2020,
Is it you?
January the 18th, 2020. Just before everything got
Because
shut
it's
down.
online also, right? Yeah, it's also online.
Yeah,
It-
late 2019.
And so is the audio tapes that we
Right,
did are online.
right.
I cut those over 2 years ago.
Mhm.
So this may be, so you just did it, right? Obviously, a lot of people still need to learn about the meaning and the history of the statute. People are much more likely to consume that information if it's within sight of the statute itself. So with respect to those who did the work to put it in the shelter house, you want to meet people where they're at and bring it out there to the statute. You know, I'm speaking for our sibling bike organization, Eastside Bike Club, which meets there every Saturday. I would venture that the majority of the people even there every
Don't even know it's
Saturday
in.
don't know that information. And though y'all have been kind to open up the facility, you still got to go in there and get it. And maybe it would silence them.
That was our Saturday meeting, Brian, you might want to say it.
Yeah, so I mean, we're working towards that exact thing. I mean, what we were able to do was not have a weatherproof version in the shelter building, but we do have funding, and we're working with the MLK Committee on interpretive signage on site, as well as an audio tour, so you can just dial into an app and you can hear King's speeches, all that sorts of things right on site. So the goal is to sort of move all that information right to the plaza.
Interpretive signage, you might add, that not only gives you a message, but gives you enough information that it challenges you. And it starts at the road, so it says, if you go in here, this is what you see. If you turn this on, this is what you hear. This is what you get said, what king made this speech, here's an excerpt, and they would come periodically, changing lights. I mean, it's gonna be.
Sounds like you're well on your way. If you need an example, a good example, Birmingham, at the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, which is right down the street from the church where the 4 little girls lost their lives. There is a park right there that has all of that. That has the signage, that has the full larger than life statue of Dr. King, and has the audio tour, and made it really easy for a technological doofus like me to consume. So like it's a great model if you're still looking for a good example.
Yeah, that's great.
I gotta say something on that. I'm gonna tell you why. Other cities have provided all kind of funding to get these things. They got some fantastic displays and buildings and stories of history of slavery and civil rights and all that. We can't seem to get, but now they just got $1 billion to cover the park. I don't want to go there. That's not about this meeting. But that approach is about making that a tunnel, and without thinking about what's going to happen to development on Jefferson and Fillmore. Where's the money going to go to make this a viable supposed reconnection, which is never going to happen? And the same thing here. They just got $30 million for the Heritage Corridor. Nobody knows what that's for. I saw their plan. I don't know what the 30 million, but they come up with money. We're asking for money for the Olmsted Park, and you got to pull teeth. And it's a public park. The city almost seems kind of, we'll give you something, but we really could use like $2-3 million. We could really make that park something. Well, why would they not consider doing that? I don't know. I guess I'm really through now.
Well, Brother Bill, I think because we have so many repairs that has to be done first.
Oh, Lord knows.
So once the repairs get out the way, then we can go knocking down the doors for.
Let's set the stage, which is being done here.
Right.
I'm with you, but I don't got a lot of time now.
Okay.
You followed up.
I got you.
See, do you have someone on?
So I, Denise Barr. Denise, would you like to speak still?
Yes. Hi. Good evening, everybody. I just, I want to be mindful of the fact that this is not my community. It's outside of the perimeter of my community. When I hear you talk about fencing, and I understand the conversation, all due respect, but I think that you have to be intentional about decorative rather than a statement that says that the park doesn't belong to everybody in the city of Buffalo. You can put up all kinds of fencing. Sometimes you're going to put up fencing that's going to put a clear statement of what's usable and what's not. Sometimes you're going to put up a fence that gives a clear statement about, this is available to, certain communities and it's not. I just want to be intentional when, we have that conversation, because again, I understand you're having issues with people going into the park. You've got these boulders that are all over the place. Okay, great. But we don't want to wrap that park up so tight that you wind up making it look like something other than what it is, or it becomes a statement of, this is not inviting. This is not available for everybody. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Well, wise, very wise. Thank you.
But what, what's her name? Denise, hi, this is Gina Davis, and we're not looking to make a statement like that. We're looking to bring the history back of how Olmsted had the fence in the park in the first place. We're not trying to do anything different. We just want to make sure we keep the beauty and the integrity of our park decent and in order. We don't have to keep spending money on repairs, where we can have this fence that was already there replaced back.
I understand. And again, I appreciate the conversation. I do. I just think that sometimes when we think about barriers, we don't necessarily look at how it's going to be reflective, you know, in other people's thoughts. That's what I'm saying to you. You know, you could look at a fence and it's absolutely gorgeous, but you're not looking at what the commentary is going to be towards the people that you say that you want to be invited in. And that's where I'm going to leave it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
I don't know if she's still on, but Ms. Barr, if you are, my name is Sherry Sherrill, and I am with Covington Associates Consulting. I'm actually the president, founder, and CEO. I understand, I believe, what you are concerned about. You're concerned about how other persons might interpret an unnatural other barrier being placed between they and the natural environment that MLK Park is. And I just would add, not as a disclaimer or caveat, but just to say that even in New York, which has that beautiful Central Park there, that's world famous, is our park. And when I say our, I mean everyone in Buffalo, Niagara region, and the visitors who visit here will be maybe hearing us call it that and wonder, what do they mean by Deer Park? But anyway, Central Park has a barrier around it, if you want to call it fence or a wall, which is what Central Park has. It has a wall around it, and it has not seemed to detract or deter anyone from visiting it. And I was there just recently, last year, as recently as last year, some persons here maybe even sooner than, more recently than that. So, but I think if a fence, which I understand that the Block Club's concern is needed, something is needed to deter persons from parking pulling up right up onto the grass, whether there's been a recent rain or not. But you and I know when there has been a recent rain, you put 2,000 plus pounds on top of turf, and what happens? It tears up the lawn. The question is, whose responsibility is it to fix that? Is it the person who did it, or is it the Olmsted, or is it the city, the county, the state? Whose responsibility is it? So some type of something. Fencing. What about a historically accurate fencing? When was the park built? What did fences look like then? Weren't they the wrought iron gate with spacing every so many feet so that people can walk through? So that when we have events like Juneteenth and other events, kind of a reunion, that people can walk through with their tables, with their food items, with their chairs, whatever it be, just walk through. You know, lovers during date night in the park can get through every 6 feet, 10 feet, however many it may be, but fencing in the park to protect it and to preserve it and to cut down on any chance for any insurance claims needing to be filed and paid. And I think it's a reasonable request. If you look at it, what is in fact in place in other cities, including the largest city in the state, it's not completely entirely out of the question, but you don't want to send the message that the park doesn't belong to everyone. Thank you.
Yes.
We have Betty Jean Grin.
All right, Betty.
Betty, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Nice seeing you,
Good
Brian.
evening.
Gina Sherry Sherrill, who's my daughter, for those who don't know. She's the project manager for We Are Women Warriors, and the Honorable Clifford Bell. I recall about 10 years ago, I thought about having an African American museum in Buffalo, as other major cities have with a large population of African Americans. And I thought about why we don't have it. And I approached Cliff Bell and asked him to be chair of the African American Museum Committee. He has remained as chairperson for over 10 years, and yet still we're no farther now than we are for an African American museum, because those in power have not addressed issue, have not allocated or designated resources. And for $30 million coming to the African American Heritage Corridor, I know they're going to build a building that's going to be housing the NAACP and what WFO radio, but that shouldn't cost $30 million. That's a small area. They call the corridor about one block. $30 million cannot fit into one block, but $30 million can be used to build that life-size statue that Sherry Sherrill and others in the community are talking about. I got no disrespect to that bust that represent enslaved African all over this world. That's what that bust represents to me. It doesn't have to look like king, because it's more than king. It's about African who was held in bondage, captured, murdered, lynched, discriminated, and they're still being discriminated against. So it'd be good if we could get a committee to ask how the $30 million is going to be spent. It has not been allocated or designated, then maybe we can get an African American museum. I know there's 2 acres of land that is on the, I'm gonna tie into Olmsted. I'm getting there. That's on Canal side. Perfect place, 2 acres of land for African American Museum, the Honorable Mr. Clifford Bell. That conversation should be had because they're saying now, they don't know what they're gonna put there. If they don't know, let us say, let's put a museum on the canal side and 2 acres of land. And we can also study, see how much would it cost to get that life-size statue of Dr. King. I think that Dr. King should be honored, and his part was a life-size statue, in addition to representing all African and the universal head bust we have at Fillmore and Best. So I think that what we're doing here and what Gina Davis has done with her Black Club and being a steward of MLK Park these many years, living in close proximity, is making sure that our input, that our footprint, our African footprint is not dissolved or diluted, but it is complemented by others and other cultural. Maybe we can't get an African American museum on the waterfront. Maybe we can get a multicultural museum. And maybe there can be something done that's going to enhance MLK Park. And I see the statue is something people are asking for. I see money that's there. It has not been designated by the African American Cultures Corridor as much as I know. So let's have the conversation now. And let's support Gina Davis, her Black Club, and Sherry Sherrill, and the Milk Pan, the MLK Park Initiative. And let's support Clifford Bell and Betty Jean Grant and the African American Museum to make sure.
That's right. That's right.
That legacy is honored and is remembered, because Clifford Bell portrait should have been on that statue, on that wall, the Freedom Wall. But to ignore Clifford Bell and say that justice has not been done to him, and all he has done and continue to do in his 90s. I know how old he is. So let's, and also NFTA has extra spaces on that wall on East Ferry Street. So let's lobby, finish those 9 portraits, and one should include the Honorable Clifford A. Bell. On that note, I say good luck. I appreciate what you're doing, what we're doing, and let's stay together, work together, and plan for our future and our children's future. Because if we don't do it, no one else will. And I'll continue to listen. Thank you.
Betty, let me tell you one quick thing. I've been trying to become a member of the committee that has got that corridor, and I have not been considered or appointed. I have, without bragging, more history about Buffalo since I was born and raised here. And I've been involved in the community since I was 26 years old. I have always been out there. When you talk to me about putting the committee together, it was your idea. I've been trying, even recently, put together proposals for a museum with detail about what to put up, what it would cost, who would run it. We have not been entertained. And I'm kind of disappointed after all these years that Brother Bell still is not a member of a committee that's planning what to do about African history that weren't even born when I was doing stuff about African history. So,
Brother Bell, let me tell you, Brother Bell. Let me tell you, call Senator Tim Kennedy. He allocated that resources. His partner in the Assembly was Majority Leader Crystal People-Stokes. Those two phone calls that you make, and you tell them that not you, but this community, you can use my name as much as you want to, insist that you be on that committee, because you can't talk about inclusion where you don't have you as the oldest member, I think, of the Buffalo Common Council that's still here as being a minority. You're the oldest, you're the senior. We have to have you give the recognition to you. We're gonna do that about making that portrait on that Freedom Wall, because I'm gonna talk to those in charge, Aubrey Knox Art Gallery. But we got to have some input on how the $30 million is going to be spent. And it's a travesty for you to be here knowing your history and your work ethic, and you're steering that Black Museum initiative for over 10 years, to not consider you as an insult to this community, not to you, but to us. So if you don't make that phone call, Clifford Bell, I'll make that phone call. You just call me, okay?
I'll make it. I've already talked to the authorities before. They all know what my wish is. But the reason I'm not pushing, because I've never pushed. My whole thing is about service. Half of the stuff I got says thank you. That's the way I was brought up, and that's the way I live. I'm not going to beg to be on the committee. I'm disappointed I haven't been mentioned, but I don't really think I should have to call people and say, Brother Bell, well, listen, the latest award I just got that was sponsored through the Conservancy was the Red Jacket Award.
Yes.
That's over 100.
That's the highest award. The Red Jacket is a premier named after a famous warrior chief, Red Jacket. It is huge. But you know what? Sometimes you have to remind people. And I think that we need a reminder. You don't want to call, you know what? I don't mind calling. I don't mind, being this agitator, which they call, and I am. I agitate people to do the right thing when they forget or don't know what to do. So don't worry, Cliff Bell. I'm going to call because I think that anything about African history and African-American culture, if you're not part of it and you are not being invited to be a part of it, is really an insult. I'll say it again, to this community, not to you, but this community. And I'll make that call to both of them tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless you.
You're welcome.
I mean, again, a great example of what, these meetings are really all about. They can go in any different directions and lead to activities, weren't intended, but I think great movement happening. I do want to respect people's time. We are at 7:05. And just in terms of, I think a lot of good things sort of move forward. And I think the Conservancy can be very supportive of all these things. To wrap up the conversation about perimeter security, we've got the fencing, the idea that we want to communicate, making sure we're thoughtful about the design of that fence and what it communicates in terms of welcoming artistic history. Bring that to the table. Some concern about the wooden bollards, boulders. We've got some location ideas. Again, just sort of wrapping up the idea of something related to the monument. I heard there was a suggestion that this might be the place to do something a little more expensive, a little more, high class, like suggesting a metal bollard in small sections. We could bring that to the table if that's what, some people are talking about. I do want to try and wrap up this perimeter security conversation. Were there thoughts specifically related to the monument that people want to put forward? Otherwise, there's been some good feedback even at this point. Yeah.
Briefly, Brian. Oh, pardon me.
Well, you were first, and then Derek, and then Gina. If everyone can be quick.
Yes, sir. Just again about East Side Bike Club, every Saturday at 10 a.m. You're welcome to bring that conversation or anything related out there to the group and have a Saturday at 10 a.m. Yes, sir. Okay. Every Saturday.
Where do they meet?
Right at the statue.
Right at the statue.
Okay.
Derek?
I just wanted to point out Rochester's Memorial Art Gallery uses kind of hybrid approach with the fencing. So like there's segments of the wrought iron fence, but like large areas in between, you can kind of do a hybrid. So you're kind of creating that visual element of, the boundary, but an openness with like maybe the stone boulders and stuff like that. And so it's like, they do the corners and like, could be like 20, 30 feet down. Then they do a very small segment of the fence again and continue it. And then in between, you could do like the natural boulder.
That's a good thought. That's a good thought. Gina?
Listening to what Sister Betty Jean Grant was saying about Brother Bill and the wall, I thought about the wall where the bust is. Brother Bill, what about having your picture on that wall somewhere?
I'd move carefully on that. I've concentrated my efforts so much on King that I've had affairs where I've stopped people from bringing something to give it to me because I didn't want it to distract from the importance of Dr. King and the celebration that I did for 30 years. The entertainment at the Shays Buffalo, and some of y'all may have come to some of our programs. We have dynamite programs, all educational, all to perpetuate Dr. King's memory. So even when I got the award from the congressman, it was on a rededication night, and I chilled that. I didn't have him come up and talk about he introduced it in Congress, voted for this and all that. And a couple other people wanted to. But I think sometimes maybe I was a little too humble. Because sometimes you appreciate it when someone says thank you. No matter what you do, even if you're not doing it to be thanked. It's a beautiful thing when somebody says, oh, yeah, that's wonderful, thank you.
Well, the reason why I say that is because the conversation, like Seamus said, is still that it doesn't look like King, and that's fine. We're gonna talk about it, we're gonna put it out there, but The reason why I say that is because the statue represents a strong African-American male. You are one of the strong African-American males that we have in our community, still today, that's still able to be functioning in the community, helping to this point. You're 94.
No, I ain't that old, but thank God, I'll be 93.
Oh, 93.
Thanks, Sheila. I'm gonna send you a dollar.
So I was just thinking to have some nice pictures of the strong
I'd love it.
African-American males on the wall.
Okay, thank you, darling. I'll be talking to you.
Okay.
Your check is in the mail.
I think we need to have that in the park. That's one idea. I'm talking about specifically MLK Park. What this gentleman just said about hybrid approach being used in the city of Rochester. You know the problem with boulders right now? If we use boulders anywhere in MLK Park, they're too close together. There are people that park all over for these events that happen. They're bringing tables, chairs, babies, strollers, what have you. It's hard to get between those rocks if you're trying to wheel in your event materials, whether it's the table, the chairs, or the baby stroller. So the boulders, the way they're placed right now, the way they're positioned, need to be reconfigured. It's just not.
Well, they gotta be close enough that you can't get a vehicle.
Right.
That's it, right.
That's
That's
it.
yeah.
You can't get a stroller. When you're wheeling something, you've got your laptop plus your chair, your wagon, your baby.
Well, no, there's an opening for the.
And there's pathways.
What I'm saying is people park all around the park at events. So who knows where they're going?
There's
Are they gonna say,
pathways.
come all the way to this one location, or these two locations we can get through, or shouldn't there be all around the park, access to the park?
I think,
Even
yeah,
if-
I think, I think the intention, and I can verify this, is that there are 5 feet spacing between them. So I think that should be sufficient. Whether they're getting installed that way, I think that's what we need to, like, what we need to do is also make sure they're doing exactly, what the same. The quality of the building is important to us, but yeah, I know it's important. We don't want to widen them out that a car can fit. So that is key. That's a great point.
Right.
In terms of the detailed design, another thing we've been thinking about is a concern about that, like, sort of continuous soldier course of rocks as kind of being, just standing out in sort of not like a naturalistic way. Something that we've been contemplating, recommending, want to bring to the group. Okay, come on. Is the idea that in sections, to break up the monotony of sort of the soldier course and straight line of boulders, is that we kind of naturalize the arrangement, and that every so often, recommendation is maybe every 200 to 300 feet, we do a little cluster of boulders as a small ornamental kind of naturalistic garden area, where you would basically on the backside of the boulder add in wildflowers and let things grow up so that there's seasonal blooms. As a way to sort of break up this sort of rigid aspect of that, sort of a rigid use of a natural feature, sort of break it up with sort of little clusters of sort of a more naturalized approach, to sort of basically sort of distract from this idea of putting these sorts of things in. Thoughts on this kind of approach?
No. And when you were saying that, it reminds me of the areas where I was going crazy looking at all that wildness on Best and over there on Humboldt. So I totally don't agree with that. I mean, you guys can voice, but no. I think it'll get out of hand.
Can I ask a question? If it were more formal, if it were more like bulbs and things that were just that pop of color and not the weedy stuff, would that be something?
That would look nice. Must be maintained at all times.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah.
But I agree.
Yeah. I lived in our space park in Olmsted. They tried initially when they opened back in 2017. They tried that wild flower kind of approach. And it looked beautiful in the paperwork and in the drawing, the renderings. But when they actually tried to do it, sir, it looked like something out of a bad scene from Little House on the Prairie. They couldn't cut it down.
Good point. Yes,
So
yes.
I did some years to lady.
Yeah.
Great hyacinths to it. That could be really, really beautiful.
Yeah, I did realize I was looking at this graphic and I'm like, I had added a color to that picture. That doesn't quite sell it. The way I'm glad Stephanie piped in on that. So, okay, so the idea, beautiful things, yes, not beautiful things, no, absolutely not. Okay, message heard loud and clear. Now, we've fallen way behind schedule, and we're just gonna turn the floor over to a few other people. So I think I'm gonna just zip through these things so we can have a little time for some open dialogue at the end. So I apologize to everyone who's going to speak, but we've had some great dialogue here. So again, in terms of things moving forward, there is more Empire State Development funding coming in, a major investment at the MLK greenhouse, which will be the next phase after the lighting. In addition to that, fixing pathways specifically on the west side, adding in benches, and to Seamus's point, and we're not talking about millions of dollars, but $65,000 is dedicated to signage for MLK Park as a part of Empire State. So we will be doing some new signage, all in accordance with our signage master plan, and it's all going to be great, and we're going to involve the community in that process. Where I was going to turn the floor over, 2022 is Olmsted's 200th birthday year. A lot of exciting events happening. Please go to our website right there, BFLOparks.org, Olmsted-200. Please look at all these events. There's going to be a lot of great things happening in all the parks. There was a question at last meeting about commemorative giving, whether you can buy a bench, whether you can buy a tree, whether you can make a contribution to sort of beautify the park. And the answer is yes. We've got Joanne here, our newly hired commemorative gifting manager. She would love to talk to you more, but benches are available. We are going to be installing through this Empire State Development a lot of benches in the park that will be available for your commemoration. You can see the little plaque in there. You can get the opportunity to honor anyone you like on that bench. Trees as well. For $500, we will plant a tree for you in either spring or fall. Again, Joanne will work with you on locations and species selection. Great opportunities, and you get a nice green deed associated with that. You can also just make contributions to the maintenance of the park. That is certainly something we need all the help we can get. But a great opportunity to honor someone with a gift to take care of the parks. Zach here, our community outreach manager, is focused this year, again, the 200th year, on planning volunteer days. And I think he's looking to get input on an evening, the week preparing for Juneteenth to do a neighborhood cleanup focused on MLK Park, or do a community event where people from the community come out and volunteer to work. So you will be hearing more about that. And please talk to him if you have any thoughts about the detail of that. There's his email address there, but he's always looking for, you got volunteer groups, you want to come out and volunteer by yourself, you want to come volunteer at the greenhouse, he can make those connections for you, and you can get into the park. Exciting events happening and sort of major planning efforts in MLK Park with $1 billion committed to the Humboldt Kensington project. So there's obviously a lot of work to do to move that thing along, but the idea of money committed, said out loud, is very exciting news. And Restore Our Community Coalition down at the bottom, really sort of leading the charge. A lot to be proud of with that announcement. We do want to continue to talk about safety and security in the park. We have been reaching out to the district. I forget, is it C or D?
C district.
B district.
C.
C. I had it right the first time. Should have been. So we're hoping to get someone here today. We are continuing to talk to the community officers. We're not going to stop calling them. There is some work happening. Obviously, Wingo's commitment to the security, that's huge. That's great news. We do have security cameras planned going in as a part of this larger project. So we're going to keep that conversation going. We're not going to quit talking about making sure people feel safe in the park. And then again, a couple last things before I open up the floor. We want to keep talking about reinforcing who does what within the park. We're going to talk more about maintenance next quarter, but here is a map. Just wanted to sort of communicate that within MLK Park, there's a lot of people doing stuff. There's the Buffalo Museum of Science. If you can see that little red corner there, that's their area to take care of. Buffalo Public Schools takes care of the area surrounding the 2 lots and the sidewalks leading up to the school. There is the City of Buffalo coming in, plowing all of the roadways in blue. You can see that, as well as full ownership of the wading pool behind the casino building, and a partnership in terms of keeping things clean and keeping things running with the splash pad out in the middle of the basin. So again, just want to sort of make sure we're communicating. And then everything in yellow, the Conservancy is taken care of. So obviously we've got a lot to do as well. And then as well, there is a little note in there. We work with the Arts Commission related to things on the MLK Plaza, the Four Freedoms Monument, and the World War Monument over a little corner, see down over in front of Calvary Baptist Church. So again, just wanted to share this information. We'll talk a little slower, having not been so far behind. We are still continuing to coordinate with a group that's interested and cares greatly about the Vaux Barn. So looking for a follow-up meeting to sort of get through the details with them. And then as well, again, I'm going to go through this much faster than I would like, but with the Olmsted natural areas, I wanted to clarify our objectives with regard to these areas that, you know, look naturalized. The goal is not for them to be weedy messes. The goal is to get them increasing with seasonal flowers year-round to make them interest and beautiful. So the benefits over traditional lawn are great in terms of their biodiversity, creating ecosystem habitat functions. They also reduce emissions and they create an educational opportunity. But that's only if they're working. It's only if they're looking good. It's only if they're a benefit to the community. So in addition to that, we've really set about refining this year standards for review, for analysis, for modifications, daily patrol for trash. Every season we're patrolling for invasive species and undesirable stuff. We're managing even the stuff that we want to see there to make sure it's not getting too dense, getting too tall, those sorts of things. We're managing fences. We're looking for signage. We're looking for cut through traffic. So I guess the idea to communicate, again, quicker than I'd like, is that there's a lot of standards that we're going to hold ourselves accountable to in terms of making sure that these are, you know, not only meeting our needs, but they're meeting the community's needs. And I know Stephanie's going to be holding our feet to the fire on that. And if we're not doing our job, the mowers come in and they go away. So it's really up to us to make sure that they're worthwhile. So again, a lot covered. It's been a lot of great conversation. We've got 7 minutes where we can revisit anything you would like or take a new tactic. So let's put on our thinking caps. Yes, sir.
All right, just a quick question. When you're going over the map of MLK Park, who's in charge of the casino now?
So, yeah, so the casino is under construction right now. So it's closed due to construction. But then once it is opened up, next meeting, the Conservancy is going to be bringing the RFP to get a concessionaire in that building to the community so we can help write that together, decide who's going to run it, but it will fall under the Conservancy's management in terms of once it's no longer a construction project, then it's going to become one of the other park buildings that we're managing.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. So I was invited here by Ms. Gina Davis. I wanted to ask about if there was any work being done or money being raised to possibly celebrate the holidays, you know, it's like Christmas time at our park. We have such a beautiful park. I did just learn that I believe Crystal Peoples-Stokes, she does a tree lighting every year. And I think that's amazing. I actually didn't know about it. I passed the park at Christmas, you know, in Christmas time. But our park is so huge. Maybe, is it possible that we could celebrate it park-wide, you know, maybe Christmas time, Thanksgiving time? I see other parts of the city look so beautiful during the holidays, and, you know, it's probably too big a project right now to work on Genesee, you know, Broadway, Sycamore all the way down, but we do have the park, we share it as an East Side community, and I think that'd be great.
I agree.
Well, I have something to say about that. I do have some ornaments that I told you about, but we have some ornaments still. Other than what Olmsted has, I still personally have some ornaments from the park. It's just that we gotta figure out where they're gonna go, and that's the main thing, because some of them are big and we're not gonna leave them sitting on the ground all night. So we have to figure out what we're gonna do with them, where they're gonna be placed and how long, and I forgot her name, but anyway, working with Olmsted to place them.
So I can add to that. National Grid is committed to doing lighting in the parks, as far as decorative lighting too. And they actually have been partnering with us to have that tree, because the tree is getting so big that we've got to have it professionally lit now, because our forestry team just can't do it by themselves now. So, but National Grid has actually asked if we would like to have all of the evergreens behind the monument lit in addition to Crystal People Stokes tree. And so I think that there's continuing to be this interest in seeing that type of celebratory light in the park. And I definitely think if we all get together and talk about it, we can come up with a great plan, and that National Grid will help pay for it.
All right, sounds good.
Which could include caroling, some of it, singing Christmas songs, other things. Maybe a bad idea, young lady, as you go along with Gina, to think about putting some people together that may have a like thought about celebration, and then pick the day you want to celebrate. And let's see if we can help you to get people to participate as part of a program, community program to celebrate
The Christmas.
Christmas.
That we do. We can do that.
Well, we got Bessie Patterson and some others that can get choirs for you, and people to come and sing, and musicians to come and play. You know, it's bigger than you think, but the idea is great, but it's gotta be worked on. That's the thing.
Cheryl and Sarah.
Yeah, and just add that in addition to Christmas, which of course not everyone does celebrate, there's also Kwanzaa, which is a very big event that belongs one of the biggest ones with the celebration that different countries come out to. But also there's also other faiths and holidays.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, extend this season. Sarah?
Well, along the vein of this conversation, I'm wondering if it would work to reach out to various houses of worship and ask if they would like to sort of adopt, you know, a section of a park that they would be responsible for some level of decoration, and it would depend on their particular holiday, and also some level of programming to go with that.
That was a conversation we had at our last Block Club meeting. Thank you for bringing that up. We suggested to contact local businesses and places of worship to help even sponsor a nice ornament, the big ornaments that used to be like M&A's Valentine, I always think of that. The big ornaments that can go on the tree, because when I got the ornaments before the wreaths, I didn't realize how small they looked once they got up on the pole, and I'm going, oh my God, they didn't even feel big. But in the store, it was big. I said, oh no. So we came up with the idea of asking local worship houses and businesses and organizations to adopt and sponsor a nice ornament for us. So yes.
Yeah.
You know, Olmsted used to decorate his house in Christmas lights so much. Yeah, he was one of those ones, you know, that,
Well,
his
also,
radio station
To the music.
Brian, there was another lady that brought up a good point. Her son, he passed away, but he was handicapped. And she said that was a huge issue when she took him to the park. And she asked me to please mention that she wants to talk more to Olmsted about having more handicap accessibility in MLK Park.
Is this like at the playgrounds or just pathways that are?
She was
that are
saying pathways
easily-
and
easily
even,
movable?
yeah, some of the, she was even saying some of the swings and stuff wasn't handicap accessible for her son.
Swings.
Isn't
Okay, and I think at the new playground.
Right.
I know.
Well,
there's-
that's what I said to her,
the old
but
one.
she was mentioning something, so I asked her to reach out to you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
so she
great.
could, yeah. Yeah, that's what I would bring that up.
We are right at 7:30, so I mean, if there are other thoughts.
One quick one, remember, we had talked about the idea of having bricks placed in the park with someone's name on them dedicated to, it'd be a lot less expensive, but it'd be very effective. Pathways leading to the monument or whatnot, because a lot of churches of it is a fundraiser, and I don't think anybody would mind using that as a tribute to someone that either had a relationship with the civil rights movement or that they just wanted their name to be on a stone in the park. It's something to think about. We, you could probably end up putting in 2,000 to 3,000 stones and make $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. And that can be used to generate some other kind of activity within the park.
See, I know that's something
We've been talking about it.
That's a couple of years, I think, with Joanne here, if you feel there's some programs, just something to work out the details on. Yes, sir.
I was invited by Gina as well. My concern is more actually basketball court, tennis courts, right there at the park. Not as old as some people.
Thank the Lord for that. It's cool.
I remember in Martin King Park, summer, Mr. Randy Smith, summer basketball class. That pride, which I talk about, I got it from there. I understood the significance of Martin Luther King, but being able to spend my summers
playing
ball and being able to watch other people and being able to admire local basketball players was something that I really appreciate. And I see that's a little different now because we don't have a place where guys can come home from college and showcase that they have a different game than they had 3 years ago in high school. And that is significant. It's smaller than it is for someone else. Is that when you get ready to go home for the summer, I'm playing summer league when I get home. And that was powerful for me being a young kid growing up in the city of Buffalo, being a Buffalo upper school kid, and being able to sit on the front row at Martin Luther King Park. Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays was unlimited. I can give you exact days. First game was at 6 o'clock on Wednesday, and you wanted to play that 4:30 game on Saturdays and Sundays right before unlimited, because halftime of your game sold out. And that park held 3,000 people. That was significant. I would love to see some type of summer league in that park, but really not just for the kids, but also the unlimited is really what made the park significant, was the unlimited.
How did those,
that was ran by NICYO at the time.
Run by NYCYO.
Oh, that's Joyce.
Yeah, it was Joyce back then.
Yeah, because I had a couple of teams playing in
that was the
organization
organization.
40, 50 years ago.
Yeah, the
If
organization.
you're gonna pursue something like that, I wonder if trying to battle these things.
Beautiful. I mean, it's really.
Why don't you do that?
We've always seen ourselves as like a great programming venue. We don't do the programs, but as much as we can support them. We like to see these things happen. It just activates the park. It makes it-
Absolutely. Draw people and.
So Kenny, wouldn't that, would any repairs have to be done or any upgrades? What
Yeah,
would
we
need
did,
to get it going?
well, actually, the main upgrade, we had a company come in and look at covering the court with the rubber courts. In New York City, she mentioned New York City, and at the Rucker Park, one of the main attractions
Artificial turf.
is that they have a rubber court, which allows the pro players and the college players to feel okay and comfortable with coming to play.
So if they fall out now too.
Right, but
Concrete is a man.
it's
It's
The
too
rubber
hard
at the
to-
rucker is sneakers, it's rubber off of tennis shoes. So it's a very, its structure is excellent, but I don't, to that extent, but something to where the college coaches would give clearance, because college coaches have to sign off for their players to play in summer league. It's not automatic, they have to be cleared to play. But if you have rubber courts, nice solid rubber court, you can get some of the best talent to play in the summer league. And that's what we have. If we have a summer league here, we can have 400 miles. A kid can play within a neighboring city of the school he goes to, or in the neighboring city of the city or state that he lives in. Which means we can have teams from surrounding areas that can play if we do it right, where we have it structured, NCAA certified, and we can have these college players, which people really paid attention. My memory of Martin Luther King Park, it wasn't neighborhood guys who made the unlimited. It was those college players who came home that made Martin Luther King Park the place to be. And if you go back 1986, 87, we were ranked number 7 in the Sports Illustrated for top summer leagues in the country.
Wow.
2 years in a row, 86, 87, 87, 88. One of the best summer leagues in the country, rated in Sports Illustrated. So I know we can do it again.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you, Ken.
yeah, it sounds like there's some capital investment stuff, there's some programming energy that
You
needs.
talking about drawing people into the park too, of different ages and whatnot, which is, because people, we load up those stands and stuff there.
All right, well, yeah, like a great way to sort of wrap up, unless other people have thoughts about things to keep talking about and getting up, back up and running.
Well, I wanna, just real quick,
Yeah.
you showed the picture of, what about the tennis court?
Yeah, the tennis court as well, both of them, tennis court and the basketball court, they have it covered.
I go way back to when General Bass was.
Rubber would go on both.
That's 50 years.
Mhm.
I played for General Bass.
Yeah, he was one of my buddies.
When you showed the picture of the Vox barn, I wanna, talk about that one real fast, that, that's something that we, the Block Club, is working on, making that, the Vox barn museum. Putting Dr. King's history in there, as well as, Frederick Law Olmsted and the culverts, like, inside that museum. So we're, Brad, he couldn't make it tonight, but he is, spearheading Friends of the Vox Barn, so he's getting signatures for that. And we're reaching out for partnership to help us with the process.
Right.
Because I didn't know that was one of the, oldest buildings left in Buffalo.
It's the
Oldest
it's the
structure.
last building standing today that Calvert Voss created.
Right.
Anywhere in the country. It's the last building.
And we have it in Buffalo. So can you imagine all the historians all over the world coming, not only for the Monument Plaza, but to see that Vox barn? I mean, that is amazing. And PBS had a show on about Frederick Law Olmsted. Did you guys see that? I was so amazed. And the way, the relationship that him and Mr. Voss had, it was awesome. Yeah, they said they're gonna show it again, so you guys look out for it, because it's very informational, and you can learn a lot about Olmsted and all the parks we did around the world. Beautiful.
Is that even sure? But I think they introduced it. It's pretty smart. All right. Thanks, everyone.
I move like you do the VHS and tape.
I move we adjourn.
You skip it out.
July 27th, it's on your agenda. Meeting again, I think this location worked out pretty well. So,
Thank you.
okay, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.